Last fall, I read an article in Frog Pond, which is the journal of the Haiku Society of America. It was called A Disarmingly Simple Challenge, the Busan 100, by Jay Zimmerman and Gregory Longnecker. To quote the essay, Yosa Busan, born in 1716, died in 1783, twice began the daily practice of writing 10 haiku for 100 days. He started one series on Buddha's birthday in 1777 and another in his final year. We invite readers to try the practice themselves. So I took them up on their invitation. Actually, today is day 98. So not quite finished. And I'm behind. I didn't write 10 yesterday, so I have to catch up tonight on the way home. Luckily, I commute. One thing I should mention is that haiku are not poems with 3 lines of 5, 7, and 5 syllables. The sound system in Japanese measures sound very differently than English. And the 575 requirement, which applies to Japanese units of sound weight, not really syllables, doesn't convert to English syllables. So the consensus is that English, with its syllables loaded up with consonant clusters, gives haiku that are much too long if you use 17 syllables. 12 syllables in English is more like the weight of a Japanese haiku. But the 575 thing is really the least of your worries when writing haiku. There are many other restrictions. For instance, kigo, or seasonal words. Every haiku must have one and only one. There are actually dictionaries of kigo, and they are assigned to a particular month of the year, often making no sense whatsoever to the season from our perspective. So there's all these traditions that have been built in. There's kureji, or cutting words, which at their best introduce an ambiguity that suddenly shifts the poem or forces the reader to go back and read it again with a new meaning in mind, kind of like the volta in the sonnet. Also, the language should be plain, it should be in the present tense, you can't use metaphors or similes, and so on and so on, and many other things. And there are always cranks who get completely obsessive about these. I took Zimmerman and Longnecker's advice and used my 100 days to practice working with some of these aspects of haiku. The season words tend to be very conventionalized, even cliched, and at worst impose a Hallmark card voice. So I found myself learning how to fight my kigo. So here's some examples. And Kurt, you mentioned that a friend of yours, a Japanese friend of yours, said that traditionally haiku are read twice. I'm not going to do that just to save a little time, but let them think of them twice. Early spring nightfall, tight-lipped, well-researched, the judge dons black. And then midwinter night, the noodle was long enough for a whole meal. Eating roast eagle, the original Thanksgiving. That's actually true. Filing a claim on your travel insurance, November nightfall. Winter trees, a dangling clutch of security cameras. Cutting is hard to do consistently, but I had some practice at that too. Tried. Brown oak leaves, I forgot, cover the grill. Onion skin, my children haven't learned what it is. Frigid wind racing through the tunnel, the express bus. Tattooed hands, tapping on bright glass, moon and bare trees. And calming drones by the Christmas tree, peace on earth. I tried a couple of things to expand beyond the limits of the here and now. Haiku traditionally are discussed as focusing on a small haiku moment, a kind of Zen realization arising from the minutiae of events and the moment of seasonal time. In pushing against that, I tried writing some topical and historical haiku. Since I've been writing poetry about police shooting incidents, like the one I read a couple of gatherings back here, I thought I would read a few haiku that I wrote about civilian and police officers involved in fatal encounters. I'm really not sure if these work, not least because I worry about reducing these incidents by writing about them in only 3 lines. But it was an experiment, it might have some potential. You can let me know what you think later. So the kigo in these, the seasonal reference, is the name of the deceased, or the police officer. I'll start off with some of the haiku about people killed by police officers. Akai Gurley, rocky cliff path on moonless night. The possum asleep in the middle of the road, Eric Garner. A year working the puzzle to find a piece missing, Noel Polanco. Usmani Zongo, antelope hides, stretching taut. Kimani Gray, lying by a gun, outdated textbooks. Walter Scott, a car is so heavy to carry home. Freddie Gray, a blackbird caught in a mastiff's jaw. Timothy Stansfield, the cicadas stop singing together in one instant. Amadou Diallo, gold coins shine in the culvert. Gideon Bush, the bent car frame always turns left. Patrick Dorismond, there are sucker scars on the blue whale's skin. John Crawford III, the bird falls from air with grass in beak. Jeremy Martis, age 6, squirrels digging daffodil bulbs. And then some haiku about officers who killed people. These are much harder to write. Lieutenant Michael Piggott, fortune cookie and wine, fortune unreadable. Darren Wilson, common button mushrooms in growing medium. Derek Stafford and Norris Greenhouse Jr., smiling crowds burn Beatles records. Michael Slager, house cat brings unbidden a mouse head. And Timothy Lohman, a binge eater pukes a Happy Meal. And I'll close with a few dumb haiku that should have been tweets instead, or maybe show me banging my head against all of the various haiku rules. Watching the debate, a group of elves in a tree bake cookies. Turds on a string aren't necessarily a necklace. For some reason, the Kigo ornamental cabbages inspired a great number of haiku, 2 of which I'm going to read to you. A Yamaha DX7, purple lights, fog machine, row of ornamental cabbages. With only salt and ornamental cabbages making sauerkraut. Dear Lord, I pray, even underground, a signal tracks my data. Mosquitoes riding a cavalry of jellyfish after the flood. And the last one, this is haiku number 700. Mall of America, fat robots fall in love with cash registers. Thank you.